If we cannot even unify the continent as a whole, we should be able to allow its people and goods to move freely within the continent. That creates a market. Africa of about 1.4 billion people. That creates a market. And the availability of a market will create prosperity. And that will lift a tremendous amount of people out of poverty. I hope our leaders are listening. Because we are in about 42 countries. They are listening. And we as Africans have a duty to ensure that we are not seen in the backwaters of civilization, that we have a place within the world, the continent, I mean the civilized society, to live in the way that can restore the dignity of the African people. And this we must do deliberately, conscious of the fact that we are also here on this planet, and we are deserving of the dignity and prosperity that other peoples are enjoying.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. London.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
Also, my big brother, Christine. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the invite.
Thank you.
I actually this morning was going to attend the funeral. Well, I'm still going to attend. Of a lady I had a lot of respect, and a good friend of mine, Agnes Chigabatia.
Yes.
Her funeral is being held this morning at the St. Kizito Catholic Church. So. But when your invite came, I said, oh, yeah, a bad friend. anyway. Yes, this issue of this attacks in Benin. In fact, I'm hearing it for the first time this morning. And I'm very troubled. I have been following some developments in Benin. They're making some tremendous progress under their new leader. Not just the economic side, the governance side. So I'm very sorry to hear, or sad to hear, that these attacks are happening. You know, yes, some might say there's some people who feel some non-inclusion in the system or whatever. But I don't think those are excuses. Like my brother was saying, China. There are mass populations in China who have also felt very excluded from what is going on. But they worked on the system, played their part, and everybody's contributing and everybody's benefiting. And the progress is across, not at the same level, but it's happening. And that is what I also expected to see with Benin. You know, because there's a new, you know, a new wave of progress in Benin since their current president took over. You know, that partisanship that used to pull them apart has been, you know, subdued, and the national progress has been the focus of the entire nation under a focused leader. You know, something that I believe Africa needs urgently. Yes, we have our own differences and our own issues, but those should not be an issue. The issue should be, how are we progressing and where do we want to go and how are we getting there? That should be our focus every morning. And the various contributions, any small contribution anybody can make towards that agenda, that should be our focus. So I'm very disturbed to hear about these attacks. And like we've seen in many of the other countries, what are these attacks? Yes, they'll say we are being excluded, we're not getting development. But it is fundamentally criminal. Criminal activity. Like it's happening in Nigeria. They are kidnapping for ransom, stealing, naked, involving themselves in other criminal activity. So we must focus on getting rid of some of these things. Now, our recent history in Africa has taught us, and it has been established in many instances. Now, some of these activities that go on have other powers fueling it seriously, directing and fueling it because of their own ulterior motives, to keep you disorganized, to keep you, to make you lose focus, and to help you to divert your resources. Instead of putting your resources into development, you are using it for defense and other things, and constantly keep your populations in turmoil, internal displacements and things like that. We've seen that. You've seen that. Foreign agents come in, incite various people, criminal gangs, and these things happen. So I think we must identify these situations, conscientize our people. Yes, you may have a problem, you may have your own issues, but this is not the way to go. And when people come your way preaching this type of message, you should deal with them. You should deal with them. You should let us get the security agencies involved. Let us block it out. They are not in your ultimate interest. And you let them see what has happened to other communities where such people came and said, welcome to see them. Those areas where Boko Haram say they are coming to liberate. What is happening to the people there? Their lives have become worse. This is the message we must preach across our continent, and let the people know that if we focus as a people, appreciate that we have the opportunity, the God-given strengths and abilities, it is for us to galvanize them and develop them. There's nothing we can achieve. There's nothing we can achieve. And we focus on ensuring that our people appreciate that, yes, there's a certain element of our history, a certain element of the news, a certain element of the information train that tries to suggest to us that we can never be of any use. We can never be of any progress. Ours is just the negative and the worst things in the world. We must let our people appreciate that this is not the case. So for me, this issue of what is happening in Benin is terribly troubling. Look at DR Congo. Look at the size and wealth of DR Congo. And yet a small group of people on another continent somewhere, the size and population of a small province in DR Congo, were able to subdue and capture these people and subjugate them. I mean, we must be alive to these things. And those leaders who have become puppets of those same people perpetuating their agenda. No. We have to let our people appreciate that. No, this thing can't go on. So I am very worried. And of course, being in Ghana not too far away, we too wanted to see progress. Like you said in our local situation, when your friends, there's a fire in your friend's beard, fetch some water and put it on beside you. We should be worried. So I wish that the ECOWAS leaders will come together quickly and come up with a program, pragmatic program, to deal with this, not just with the issue of the insurgency, but as a collective, non-political, focused on Africa. Focus with the African, as the focus of the plan. Not some political masters and some groups, no. And then come up with something to arrest this situation. That's the only way we can.
Pharaoh, Mr. Philip Landing there. You're still watching the News Power Review segment here on Pan-African Television. My name is Kwame Usudas. May I remind you that we are streaming live on Facebook, facebook.com/Pan-African Television, and we are also on YouTube. So for those of you who may want to join the show via those platforms, you are at liberty to do so. Make sure you leave your comments underneath the Facebook live stream or the YouTube, and then I will read the messages here for you. We're also on WhatsApp, so the WhatsApp number will be projected on the screens right now, so you can share with us your thoughts via that platform as well. Mr. Pratt, please.
Well, it's not so surprising what has happened in Benin. It's not so surprising. It started some time ago, about a year ago. The insurgents actually attacked the northern part of Benin and caused a substantial stir. Now, I agree also that it's not an attack which is limited to Benin. The whole of West Africa is threatened by the insurgents. We do know that Ivory Coast has been in the crosshairs for some time now. We do know that Togo is threatened, and we know that the insurgents are very, very active in Mali, in Guinea, and in Burkina Faso. If you take the case of Nigeria, if you add the case of Nigeria, it's very frightening. Now, Nigeria has a population of about 260 million, which is half the population of the whole of West Africa. And if something were to happen in Nigeria, the repercussions on the rest of West Africa will be huge. Already, the instability in Nigeria is alarming. And I've always spoken about the Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast, the low-intensity civil war in the Niger Delta, and the secessionist movement also in the east of Nigeria. You understand? Now, if you add all of this to the picture, it is exceedingly frightening. Now, I've seen intelligence reports, Ghanaian intelligence reports, and it doesn't provide for any comfort. The Ghanaian intelligence report is that the insurgents are already here and that they have sleeping cells. The last intelligence that I saw indicated that they have come all the way down beyond Tamale towards the south. That's frightening. You understand? Now, it's important to look at why the insurgency is growing in West Africa. And one of the factors simply is the overthrow of the Gaddafi regime and his brutal murder. Gaddafi did provide some stability, in the whole of the North African, West African region. Now, with his overthrow, the insurgents who are now seeking to establish the independent Republic of Azawad moved down with heavy weapons and so on. We've not been able to contain them. And then, of course, ISIS, when ISIS began, suffering heavy losses in Syria and other places and so on, they all moved down. And this is the situation that we have in West Africa today. West Africa is likely to blow up. Now, something is interesting. As a result of the growing insurgency and instability in West Africa, the major Western powers have moved into West Africa big time. The number of U.S. bases is expanding. Ghana has signed a defense pact with the U.S., which is very troubling. Indeed, Kutuka International Airport has become a logistic base of the U.S. Army and so on. We do know that they had a very significant base in Niger. Now they are being asked to leave. In fact, as of last week, the reports indicated that they had about close to 2,000 U.S. soldiers in Niger, and they are being asked to leave. The French are everywhere, and so on. Indeed, I recall that some time ago, when President Yar'Adua, the president of Nigeria was Yar'Adua, and Yar'Adua made a very significant statement that Nigeria would not tolerate any foreign military presence on its soil, and would also not countenance foreign military presence in the whole of West Africa. That has significantly changed. As a result of the ineptitude of the Nigerian administration to deal with the insurgency and so on, now Nigeria has become, a hotbed you know, all of these Western countries are sending intelligence officers, they are sending military advisors and so on, and the situation is getting worse. Now, the question many people in West Africa are asking is that, how come, you know, that these Western intelligence people and military and so on are in West Africa precisely to fight against insurgency, and yet the insurgency is booming? Now, I like to read, you know, alongside this analysis, what has come to be known as the Cheney Report. And the Cheney Report, I think, was presented to George Bush in 2001. It was an assessment of America's energy needs, you know, going forward into the future. And Dick Cheney made the point quite clearly that West Africa held a key to the solution of the energy problems of the U.S., and that they needed to have an interest in West Africa. So clearly, their presence in West Africa is not about fighting insurgency. Their presence in West Africa is about resolving their own energy problems, given the huge potential that West Africa has for oil and gas production, for uranium and so on, and recently also lithium, you understand. So we need to understand that in context. A couple of months ago, I was significantly alarmed when the U.S. made a request to Ghana, to La Côte d'Ivoire and Benin for the establishment of drone bases in these three countries. Now, these drone bases are not for the cultivation of cassava. They're for the promotion of war. And what war are these forces likely to promote? So I think the time has come for us to wake up and to follow perhaps the examples of Burkina Faso, of Niger, and of Mali. Because if you read the report, the insurgent activity in Benin is increasing because the insurgents are being routed in Burkina Faso and other areas. So it means that they began making progress. Before the coup in Burkina Faso, government control over Burkina territory was estimated at 40%. The insurgents controlled 60% of Burkina Faso. Since the coup, and with the support of other friendly countries like Russia and so on, the government has gained substantial control. Now, government control over Burkina Faso is estimated about 70%, which means that they are making progress under the new dispensation. Now, that should be an eye-opener to all of us. What is it that the Burkinabe administration is doing which is enabling them to defeat the insurgents and other West African countries who are pally-pally with France and the US and so on, are not making any headway at all, you know. Now, these insurgent activities have led to a number of things. Clearly, the insurgents' activities to some extent account for the coup d'etats in Mali, in Guinea, in Burkina Faso, to a very large extent to what is happening in Niger. You understand? Because soldiers were being killed all the time. They were not properly resourced. The Western militaries were failing and so on. And all of those things led to what has become known today as the popular patriotic revolutions in West Africa. I think we ought to open our eyes. Something is happening, is growing. It can become very big, and it can become dominant in West Africa if we don't take remedial actions right now.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. I've seen your messages, I'll read them, but keep them coming in. Let's move on and discuss the next topic. Mahama touts credentials of Professor Naana Jane Opoku Agyemang. And the MPP, some MPP women are also calling for a female running mate. That's captured by the Statesman newspaper. But first, let's discuss Professor Naana Jane Opoku Agyemang's speech yesterday. I saw that you were beaming with smiles. Honorable.
Yes, so
Obviously elated.
well, I have always been. Professor Naana Jane Opoku Agyemang is an enigma. And so I've always been enamored to her. I've known her for a long time, not as a student, but when we were privileged by late Professor Atta Mills to serve on Ghana's UNESCO Commission. And Professor Naana Jane was nominated by Professor Mills to serve on the UNESCO board. And I was a member of UNESCO legal team. Okay, and I campaigned for her in Paris to be elected. And I was struck by her humility, her sense of purpose and duty. So I've known her. When she came into government, I had no doubt that she was bringing something new, something innovative, because she's an achiever. And so I've known her. And that's why I've never wavered. I've never wavered in my support for Professor Naana Jane Opoku Agyemang. Because when you bore through her, you will see steel. She's made of steel. She is a woman of substance. She has achieved in her own right. She's not a hangers-on. She doesn't need anybody to make her Professor Naana Jane Opoku Agyemang. Mind you, she was the first female vice chancellor ever recorded in the history of this country. So, I mean, that's why it's difficult to discuss Professor Naana Jane Opoku Agyemang, because she is a woman in her own right, an achiever in her own right. But yesterday was yet another day that demonstrated the resolve of the NDC party, clearly reorganized and structured and positioned to wrestle power from the MPP. Listening to Professor Naana Opoku Agyemang speak yesterday, I was directly transported to the United States of America, and particularly the speech of President Obama, then introducing Hillary Clinton at the Democratic Convention. Her speech has many sides. It will be difficult to compartmentalize the speech, because every aspect of it is so material and germane. She wove into her speech a narrative of the situation in which we find ourselves, our hopes and aspirations, where we want Ghana to be, what we don't want as a country, how to get there, how to get to what, like Philip London has said, how to get to what we want. She also expressed tremendous gratitude to the party and all its structures, including the flag bearer. And she acknowledged that her nomination and subsequent endorsement brings with it innovation and inclusivity. Little wonder that today the MPP party is clamoring for a female vice president or a female running mate. So clearly, Naana Opoku Agyemang represents the future. In 2016, when she was chosen, in 2020, when she was chosen to run, she achieved a lot. She didn't break the glass ceiling to become the first female vice president of the country, but I can bet you she made a lot of cracks in the ceiling. Now, today, she's poised to break the glass ceiling, to shatter it completely. Now, for those who have always said they don't see what Naana Opoku Agyemang brings on board, I advise them to go and read her speech once again. You will see purpose. You will see determination. You will see commitment. Now, what was unimaginable just a few years ago has now become inevitable, which is Naana Opoku Agyemang will become the next vice president of this country, God willing. And she said it. She's not only, it's not only gratifying that she's been made a running mate. And leadership is not about passing through the door, but it's about holding the door for many other people to pass through. She's not thinking of herself alone. She's thinking that women matter. And they matter in very significant ways. Her narrative is so compelling that anybody who doesn't see the truth probably is living within the, or in the age-old axiom, which says that truth is not afraid of conversation. Truth has never been afraid of conversation. Engage her, and she brings her truth to the table. So for me, I think that this is a new dawn of history. I think that Naana Jane Opoku Agyemang is leading the way, showing that many more of her can do it. I've heard people say again, and before her nomination, people sought to downgrade and deprecate her and her contribution to the party. Mathematically, all the people who have made such statements have been proven wrong. I say mathematically because the known quantity in the 2020 election was John Dramani Mahama. This known quantity, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, was also in 2016. And in 2016, we lost elections by close to 1 million votes. The unknown quantity in 2020 elections was Professor Jane Naana Opoku Agyemang. We recovered 500,000 votes. For the first time in the history of the NDC, the party crossed the 6 million votes line. We got more than 6 million votes in the national election. For the first time, the party recovered almost 40 seats that were lost in the elections. And so, if mathematically, and in Central Region, the party took controlling command of the presidential, or the parliamentary elections in that constituency. So for me, I have said that what is more apparent to me is that when a party, and the comrade is here, senior comrade, Kosi Pratt is here, who has experience in how political parties' fortunes are judged on an election-to-election basis. In 1996, after MPP had written their stolen verdict in 1992, the only reason why they didn't take up arms was that in 1996 they made appreciable gains in the elections. So they thought, and rightly so, the trajectory clearly pointed that in the year 2000 elections, if the trajectory continued, they were going to win. And so MPP was more interested in the stability of the country in the 2000 elections because they knew that the trajectory had. And Master and Co clearly knew. Master knew. Master and Co knew that, look, so all they had to do was to sustain the pressure on government. Kubupreku was not an ideological battle. It was a mobilization battle. To get our people to know that we were almost on the verge of winning power and don't let them drift away. If you just oppose what I've said with what has happened or what happened in 2020, you will appreciate why the NDC is confident of winning the elections. I dare say that it's not an easy job. I mean, where a party which came and ruled into power on the basis of certain set principles have violated almost all the principles. Almost all the principles. That this country is now on autopilot. That government is now, like the Ashanti say, pilolo government. Catch me if you can. That's why people are confident, our party is confident of winning the elections. But we have to work for it. And Professor Naana did not fail to demonstrate that all of us have an abiding responsibility to ensure that we recapture power from the MPP and restore the hope of the Ghanaian people. What I liked about his statement was not the history that was being made, but the compelling need for us as a people to reset the country on the path of prosperity. That can only happen if these people, these ethnocentric elitists, are removed from power. So clearly, because you see, it provides a glaring example where institutions established to serve the public interests have now been captured by self-serving private and public establishments. How can those institutions now deliver prosperity to the teeming generality of Ghanaians? Those institutions are now being used to serve the private purposes of those in power. That's not how to develop a country. That's not how to develop a country. He borrows from Massa that the Electoral Commission, and Massa has always said it, the Electoral Commission cannot claim to be independent of the people who validate their existence. And that's what you have always said. That the sovereignty resides in the people of Ghana. It is we who established the Electoral Commission. How can they say they are independent of us? That's what Massa has always said. And that's what is captured by Jane. And I agree. And so there's still a lot of work to do. Is a program of the party. That's the essence of the reorganization of the party, where we did branch audit elected our branch executives. The branch executives then elected the constituency executives. The constituency executives then elected the regional executives. The regional executives, together with the constituency executives, elected the national executives. Then the national executives, the constituency executives, and the regional executives elected the flag bearer. The party constitution allows the flag bearer to nominate a running mate in consultation with the party. And the running mate has been nominated and endorsed. And yesterday was to outdoor the running mate. So it's a program of activities for the party. The next programs will likely be the running mate touring the regions and introducing herself to opinion leaders and chiefs in those regions. And then the final getting to the elections will be to confine her to a set of regions for the purposes of delivering the votes for John Dramani Mahama and her to be at the Jubilee House in 2025.
Many have said this Prof is different. So the speech will call for some attacks from the MPP. What do you have to say in response to that?
It's not a different Prof. It's a Prof who chose in 2020 to be magnanimous in her condemnation of the MPP. It's a Prof whose academic background overshadowed her political, or the need for her to be political. This Prof has shared some degree of the academics. She's realized, though belatedly, that she's no longer in the classroom. And that she needs to communicate to the people. Attacks will come. I'm sure MPP is not pouring over the speech. Attacks will come. But the challenge is, if you think Prof can't, the statement says MPP is looking for a female running mate. If in your family or in your party you have somebody of the caliber of Jane, Professor Naana Jane Opoku Agyemang, offer that person to the MPP. If you think you have somebody who is better than Professor Naana Opoku Agyemang, because they are looking for one. So for us, Professor Naana Jane Opoku Agyemang is ready. The NDC is ready. John Dramani Mahama is ready for the battle ahead.
Mr. London.
Well, thank you. Let me start congratulating Professor Jane Naana Opoku Agyemang on her renomination as the running mate for the National Democratic Congress. And I wish her well. I wish her well. I am happy for her as a person. It's not easy for women to be in politics. And not all women have got to the level that she has got to. It's not the first time she's getting there. For many women who may have gotten that opportunity, they themselves may not even have wanted to come back because of what happens in that terrain. It's not everything that is said. It's not everything that we observe. But they know what they go through. When they put their head on the pillow at night to sleep, they know what goes through their minds. So it's a terrain that we all know. It's not easy. So for her to have, first of all, have been renominated, that in itself is a credit to her. And for her to accept, it's a further credit to her. So I wish her well. Another thing I like about her is that and that is a matter of fact. You know, she does the kind of politics that I believe all politicians should do, issue-based. It's not about you or where you come from or whatever. It's about what you are doing and what you said and what you are thinking. That is the issue. It's nothing personal. So I believe sincerely that that's how we should do our politics. And I naturally gravitate towards people who do their politics that way. You see? So I am happy for her. And I am happy that as a country we have another such person in the leadership contention of our politics. Because you see, the electorate, the political activists along the way, they take their inspiration from how the leaders operate. So if the foot soldiers, as we often refer to them, out there and activists, see their leaders talking on issues, talking in a civil manner, even if a political leader wants to refer to the other political leader as having been a fool, the way he or she will put it will not be that insulting, but the person will get the message. You see, when we have that kind of politics, it helps the system. And that's what I believe politics should be conducted. So I am happy for her and I wish her well. I'm not in the NDC, so that is for them to celebrate.
Join us as a celebrate.
My friend. The NDC has also, I must commend the party. They had a successful event yesterday. You know, they had a successful event. Well organized and well. So that was also a credit to them. I wish they will maintain it in all their activities. Because you see, at such political, of course, I wasn't there. I watched quite a bit of it, particularly the nominee's speech. That one I listened to about 90% of it. But the rest of the ceremony, I saw bits and pieces of it because I was at various locations at various times. So when I was somewhere and there was a TV, I watched a bit of it and that kind of thing. So that's how I'm gathering my impressions of how it went. And from how I saw it, it appears it all went well. Very often at such party functions, you know, some supporters get a bit exuberant and all kinds of issues happen. But I didn't observe anything like that. So I think that's also a credit. So I wish them well. Now, she has also made the issue about, I want to go back to the point of where they said there, like statesman is announcing that the MPP is looking for a female running mate. I don't believe that. I believe they already know who's going to be the running mate. And they should just come out and let everybody know who it is. I know it's a matter of juggling between two names, one of whom is a woman. It's the same people. They should come and announce it and let everybody have his peace. You know, I mean, it's you know, there's all these political. it's neither here nor there, you know. So far, what I'm interested in, I have my own flag bearer. He's going to come up with his running mates.
Oh, I thought Abu Sakara was going to be the running mate.
That's what you thought?
Yes.
Okay. Like in all running mate situations, everybody has his own. He has who he thinks will be a running mate. Everybody thinks of who he thinks will be a running mate.
Right.
And of course, like the NDC chairman was saying yesterday.
Yeah.
Everybody want position there.
No, before the Naana came, there are so many people who thought they were going to be running mate.
Well,
Yeah.
There were so many people. I actually saw a newspaper article of a friend of mine who was actually thanking the party for considering him as a. No, I mean, This is the reality of politics. So it is allowed. Now that the issue of running mate has been sorted out in NDC, thanks to the advice of the chairman of the party, people were also positioning themselves for all kinds of positions. It is natural. So I won't take that away from anybody. And it is within their rights to.
But JM retweeted that.
That's okay. I don't make it. I didn't hear
what Asiedu Ketia said about people positioning themselves and.
And see, to come back to that, I also saw a situation where the party, the NDC party, was being very honest with itself.
True.
Which I think is very essential in politics.
True.
Be honest with yourself, my friend.
From the very beginning.
Don't give yourself any illusions.
True.
Where you have a disadvantage, accept your disadvantage and work on it. That's the only way you make progress.
Agreed.
You see? And if the two main parties have always tried to give themselves illusions, oh, this is my stronghold, this is my that, this, and the people. No, sir. The political terrain in Ghana right now.
That is different, yeah.
Has changed.
I agree.
The views that used to influence my politics is entirely different from the views of my 3 adult sons. They have their own views, and they will justify it and argue with you.
That's a fact, yeah.
I can't take it away from them. So this is the reality of our politics. And when they are deciding, yes, my politics was influenced by certain particular things. My father was a die-hard CPP man. Yes, so, you know, I had a lot of that ingrained. My mother was die-hard UP. That one too. You see, so I was torn between the two. And then my own life experiences, when we were in school, what we read, etc., following the news, all that influenced our politics. Then local developments. Somebody came and did a revolution I never agreed with. His methods I never agreed with. I could never support his party. That party has rebranded itself. Even the man himself, Jerry John. If somebody had told me at any point that Jerry John and Nanado, then candidate Akufo-Addo, would have become bosom friends, I would have told that person to his face that my friend don't know what you're talking about. But that is reality of politics. It happened and we've lived it, we've seen it. And we saw the two of them work together. You see, so the political terrain, that was some changes at the top. But it has come down. People are looking at issues. People are considering what is affecting them. Yes, people listen to nice speeches and all that. They might be impressed. They will be happy. But at the end of the day, election day is in December. People are going to experience a lot. As we speak, somebody can buy food. Somebody's lights are off. Somebody has just made some money. Somebody has just lost some money. All these things are going to influence people. So between now and December, a lot is going to happen. That's why I think that it was also good that the chairman of the party, in spite of all the optimism that members of that party were experiencing and harboring and entertaining, he cautioned them. Take this slowly. Take this slowly, because you never know. When everybody goes into that ballot box, you don't know what he's going to put in. So, and there's something he didn't say that I wish he had said. That there's a new force coming up. And then you have to be very careful.
Thank you very much, Mr. Philip London. Mr. Kwesi Pratt, please.
Well, for many people, they saw a new Professor Jane Naana Opoku Agyemang yesterday. She was combative. She displayed a lot of optimism. She was precise, and so on. For them, that was a new Professor Jane Naana Opoku Agyemang. For me, it wasn't new at all. It was her returning to her form. You understand? When she was first nominated as vice presidential candidate, I don't know what happened. But somehow she became less combative, less assertive, and so on. there may be reasons for that, and I'm not interested in going there. Yesterday, for many people, was a new, refreshing, positive Professor Jane Naana Opoku Agyemang. Her own experiences over the last 7 years may have influenced this new approach to politics, which I think that is good. Because the kind of politics that we are faced with, in fact, compels us to be candid, compels us to be truthful, and compels us, even in the face of possible attacks, to stick to our guns. And she did that yesterday. The confidence she exuded yesterday was astounding. You know, her confidence level was clearly significant. And beyond that, she touched on many of the crucial issues that confront our people. Access to social services like education, like housing, like health, and so on. She also did indicate a certain approach to politics. That it's not about personal aggrandizement and so on, it's about solving the real problems that confront the people. She also displayed, to a very large extent, loyalty in the leader of the party for which she's been, selected as running mate. Extreme loyalty, which is important in this kind of system and so on. So all in all, I think her performance was outstanding yesterday. Now, being who I am, and I don't have to elaborate, I was a little worried also that the whole speech was cast in the neoliberal frame. I was worried about that. It does appear that we are not yet moving away from the neoliberal framework for national development, and that's a worrying signal. But in terms of her eloquence, her approach, her dedication, her attempt to seek the truth and so on, I think she was really excellent. Now, having said that, I've also looked at the polls, recent polls about her nomination, and the figures are more than impressive. Within the National Democratic Congress, she has an approval rating. Within the National Democratic Congress, she has an approval rating of very, very close to 80%. Within the New Patriotic Party, her approval rating is 49%, very high. If we come to non-committed voters, her disapproval rating is 16%. That's remarkable. I mean, even presidential candidates do not often get these figures. So that's very, very significant, Now, as a result of the impact that she's making on the political scene, there's now a clamor for everybody to come out with a woman presidential candidate. And I fully agree with my brother and friend, Philip. They're not just talking about just putting any woman forward. The point is that they are competent women in Ghana. They are capable women in Ghana. They are women who can do maybe much better than men in Ghana. Those are the women we need to seek out and help to develop, in order to bridge the gender gap. We're not talking about any woman. So yes, there's a clamor in the New Patriotic Party to get a woman running mate and so on. I don't think that those who are clamoring for it are actually saying that, the New Patriotic Party should go to the psychiatric home and pick a raving lunatic who is a woman. I don't think that's what we're talking about. So any other party can bring up a woman, but the qualities of the woman will be measured against the quality of the women who are already in the field, including Professor Jane Naana Opoku Agyemang. You understand? I believe that it does not make sense that a country with about 52% of its population being women has never had a woman leader. has never even had a woman vice president before. I mean, that's worrying, you know. So I believe not in affirmative action, but I believe firmly that it is reckless and irresponsible to try and push women down in a society like ours, because that would only mean that 52% of our human force that we need for development is not being utilized. And I'm so very happy that this assertion of the rights of women to participate in all aspects of our national life, not just politics, you know, is growing. But we are not looking for any woman vice president. Look, there are women who are murderers. I spent some time at the medium security prison in Isawam, and I saw women who had been convicted for murder. There was actually one woman who had been convicted because she deliberately sharpened something and cut off the genitalia of the husband and killed him. So there are women who are murderers, there are women who are thieves, there are women who are liars, there are women who are everything, and there are women who are professors, and there are women who are economists, there are women who are lawyers, there are women who are activists in the working class movement, distinguished activists in the working class movement, and so on. So yes, women must be given all the opportunity to exert themselves to become part of the nation-building exercise and so on. But let nobody think that you can just go anywhere, pick anybody and make a running mate, and because it's a woman, it neutralizes the influence of Professor Jane Naana Opoku Agyemang. Nothing more to say.
Well, thank you very much. Let me pick your thoughts on Facebook. I think I have a few messages. Let me just read some of them. This one says, Jane Naana Opoku Agyemang has spoken, and the most part of a statement that touches many Ghanaians is the fact that she won't run away from her responsibility. She will play a significant role by taking part of the core policies and programs of John Mahama's administration, like 24-hour economy, big push agenda, policy on Guta, and many more. She's credible, competent, knowledgeable, and a brainy personality. This one also says, Naana Jane is a person with impeccable record. Her nomination and inauguration has caused nightmare and sent shivers down the spines of MPP fraternity. Mahama and Jane will turn the fortunes of Ghana around for all to get the Ghana we want. Ghanaians have suffered under this incompetent Kufuor and Bawumia government. John and Jane, representing truth, honesty, sincerity, hopefulness, and competence, versus Bawumia, an unknown incompetent running mate, goes on and on and on and on. Tom sent in this one. Kakra Bedu says, Mahama pairing Auntie Jane can bring good things to Ghana. This one is attacking Prof's age, and somebody has responded to him, so I'm not going to read that one. Professor Jane is the way. Okay, let me read both. Don Luigi says, outdoor of the 73-year-old menopausal woman running mate who is supposed to be resting. Why put so much weight on an old lady in the name of wanting to win elections? We need to eschew selfishness and be serious about our country's development. Sad day for Ghana. Then Parkway CACN says, same way you voted for a cancerous president to rule this country, and we are where we are now. If you had not voted, it's too strong. That's what I can't. Exactly. So let me just. It's very, very strong. Deb with John Kujo says, this is more than qualified for. Prof is more than qualified for the position. Fahad Adam says, Professor Naana Jane all the way. And there are a lot of them. Let me see if I have some WhatsApp messages as well, and let me just read a few of them here on the show. Okay, this one says, the highly incredible job you are. Okay, so you are greeting us, and at yesterday's event at UPSA, it came out clearly that Professor Naana Jane represents the difference in the professors in the political landscape of present-day Ghana. It is heartwarming that we have such a distinguished personality, always ready to serve in Kromes, Ghana, from the depth of her heart, from Osofo in Kumasi. Koblavi Bengazi in Pokwase says NPP members shouldn't complain about Prof. Naana Jane, Opoku Agyemang, as to why Mahama has chosen her as his running mate. NPP members say she is not marketable politician, she's too old and can't work. NDC serial callers want those NPP members to know that John Mahama's choice for running mate is not their business. NPP government should think of how to fix the Dumso problem and leave NDC party matter. NPP government is aware that Ghanaians have harbored hatred, and for that matter, they will vote against the NPP government in the coming general elections. You can also yeah, respectfully.
She's not marketable. Then what is their problem?
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
this one also says, Kwame, Jane Opoku Agyemang has really demonstrated that she is indeed a mature academic, because she completely moved away from a promising spree, but rather focused more on the specifics of governance. Thank you. This one was sent from Engineer Ansa from Cape Coast. Abbas Omogobo in Offenso says, powerful and coherent speech from an incomparable academic woman with intellectual properties. Okay. Any challenges in MPP? Zion train is moving. All right, thank you very much. Alaji Hamza in Pig Farm has sent a very lengthy message. Let me see if I can read it. Good morning to you, good brother, Professor Jane Opoku Agyemang. Yesterday spoke the minds of Ghanaians. What a solid woman she is. We are so proud of her. She demonstrated yesterday to show that she is on top of issues. I was particularly happy to hear that she will not dissociate herself from President Mahama and the NDC when the going becomes tough. Unlike what others are doing now, she also went ahead to promise that corrupt officials will be prosecuted when the NDC comes to power. Goes on and on and on. I think I've done well for you, my brother. Alaji Hamza in Pig Farm. Dipku Ishmael in WAO Traffic says, every party needs a Jane, just like every TV station needs a KOD. Greetings to Super Heavyweight NDC Regional Chairman of Upper West NDC, Chairman Bunas. Dipku Ishmael, WAO Traffic sent in this one. There was one particular message that was sent to me. I've not seen it. When I see it, I'll read it for you here on the show. Now let's move on to our next and possibly our final story for this. Maybe we can combine it. Dismissed pregnant student back to school following GS directive. That's a Ghanaian Times story. And then on the front page of the Inside newspaper, we have Socialism or Ruin. Vijay Prashad speaks. Let me start with you respectfully, Mr. Philip Landon. Maybe just some few minutes, because we have to close early today. Respectfully. Yes, 10 minutes, yeah. So please.
About the pregnancy?
Absolutely, yeah.
First of all, I think that I don't know the details of this matter. I've heard a lot of activists and all that.
Yeah.
I am of the view, I am very much against the previous situation where if a schoolgirl gets pregnant, it becomes the end of her schooling. You know,
For the
that
purpose of clarity, you made
very well.
Okay, so the 14-year-old student who was dismissed from school after becoming pregnant as a result of defilement is back to school following a directive by the Ghana Education Service. The GS cited its policy guidelines that prohibit the dismissal of pregnant students. Authorities at the South Lane Lake School, located at Kaswa Hideout in the Ghana South municipality of the Greater Accra region, dismissed the child, a JHS3 student, more than 2 months ago, denying her the right to classroom activities as the Basic Education Certificate examination draws near. The swift response of the GES came after a publication by the Ghanaian Times that brought the matter to their attention. The student was reinstated yesterday. The student who was reinstated yesterday would now be able to continue her education without interruption.
Yes, like I said, and thanks for that information. Like I said, I'm very much against the previous situation where once a girl gets pregnant, it becomes the end of her education. But as a result, there has been a lot of advocacy.
Absolutely.
Where some girls are pregnant, and some heads of institutions have actually had problems because they asked some girls to go away. But I know of some particular incidents which makes me feel that some of these things must be handled carefully. One, I know of an instance where a girl in question was a very troublesome student, had some notoriety. She ended up pregnant. The schools took disciplinary measure. The parents came in, she was reinstated, all kinds of issues. And another situation, there were all kinds of health challenges. But I'm saying that if a girl is pregnant, in this case, they say defilement. So it's not the girl's fault, fine. 14-year-old, definitely underage. If she's pregnant, I would believe that it will be better that she stays at home, she's given proper medical attention, she goes through a safe delivery and comes back to school to continue. Suspending academic work for 1 year or 1 term or whatever as a consequence of health concerns should not be something that should bother a parent or a child. I believe that this should be a policy. One, it would also in itself be some form of deterrent to some of the girls. In these days of, unsafe sex, we will expect that, precautions will be taken. But if precautions were not taken, maybe like in this case, defilement, etc., it was against her will and consent, it has happened, yes, I believe that she should be given time, particularly because of her age, given full medical attention, she delivers, comes back to school, continues.
Very well. Few messages too, and then I'll come to you. Fahad Adam says, Professor Naana Jane is the way. Degbe John Kujo, this is more than qualified. Professor Naana Jane, the woman king, confusion in MPP camp. Wow, Uncle Kwesi Pratt, the overall wisdom hub. Thank you very much. Prof did well at UCC as Minister of Education. How about the MPP ministers now? I thank Mr. London for advocating for issue-based politics, but he must start from his tribal party that is fond of maybe as you know, demonizing political opponents, including Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, who was once accused of Kankenyami, while they accused Rawlings and Mahama of buying mansions abroad and stashing millions of dollars in foreign accounts without evidence up to date. Mr. London must advise his party to eschew gutter politics and learn to do clean politics, because charity begins at home, and MPP is not a good example for the youth of Ghana to follow or emulate. This one is from Ken William. Ken William, maybe some 1 second clarification to Ken William.
I'll give him some advice myself. He doesn't know what is going on. So
okay, all right.
Don't worry.
Please.
And I'm against everything that he said about. And I've always been against it, even when I was in the party.
In the party, right.
First of all, I abhor chauvinism, because my deep understanding of human nature is that both men and women are created by a man and a woman in a conjugal relationship. The selection of sex is not the predisposition of either the man or the woman. In fact, even the man is an outcome of an accident. Women were an outcome of an accident, because it's the X and the Y chromosome that produce the man, whereas the woman is the X and X chromosome. So I oppose chauvinism. You can't say that a 79-year-old man, 80-year-old man is otherwise qualified, and a 73-year-old woman is not qualified. It's the embedded discrimination on the basis of age that we should all fight. And people who speak that way, go to their homes and see how they treat their sisters. I'm against it. Now, how can you hope to develop as a country when you keep one half, and in the case of Ghana, more than one half of your population segregated? Ghana, the women are more than the men. How do you hope? And Plato said it in his writings. Even in those days, that a country cannot hope to develop when it keeps 1/2 of the population subjugated. So let's leave it. I agree entirely with Mr. Philip London, except that Mr. Philip London, defilement is not rape. A sexually active 14-year-old girl can only be charged with defilement and not rape, because she has no capacity to give consent. So maybe the girl was sexually active, and so the only charge will be defilement. But because of the stigma attached to such a person sitting in class, I agree with you that the better way would have been the GES to not to advise the school not to sack the student, but to defer the course. Because the stigma, the attention that will be brought to bear on the child will not conduce to effective learning in the classroom. And so even if it will mean transferring her to another school after birth, that would have been. Even the rehabilitation must look at the issue comprehensively from the interests of the child. And the Child Act says that this one is, the directive is in the interest of GES to be seen to be acting well, but it's not in the interest of the child. How do you say a 14-year-old girl should continue to go to school in the face of the likely complications she will suffer with the pregnancy? And so I agree entirely with you on that basis. My interest is socialism or ruin. In VG Prashad, I'm going to take your
newspaper away.
On newspaper away. I'm not finished with this. That is why I put the newspaper under my distance, because I'm taking it away. Because I've had serious rethinking. Is democracy the way it is being practiced in our country and other African countries or developing countries the panacea for development? That's a question we should all ask ourselves. This uprooted and transplanted tree that is not akin to the culture and norms and values of the people of developing countries, and particularly the African people, is it the way to go? I think that there is something fundamentally missing. 2 days ago, I was reading from the newspapers, and the President Naana Jane had attended a ceremony, the funeral ceremony of Honorable Rashid
in the Oti region.
Bawa in the Oti region, the late Rashid Bawa, Ghana's ambassador to Nigeria. And when he got to exchanging pleasantry with the chiefs, in defiance of convention established over the period of time where chiefs sit down for you to greet unless they choose to get up, Nana Akufo-Addo ordered the chiefs to get up and be greeted, or else he won't greet them. He ordered the chiefs.
That video is very appalling. Huh?
To be upstanding, or else he won't greet them. But we know the chiefs are the custodians of our norms, values, and culture. Is it right? Yes, we know that executive authority of state under a democratic government is vested in the president. Is it right for the president to exercise that power vested in him under Article 58 to abuse the values of our culture?
Good question.
And lastly, I've been greatly influenced by my recent visit to China. And I'm having second thoughts. And I'm taking precious these people away because
I have been suspecting you were having second thoughts on joining the NDC.
no, but the NDC actually is a social democratic party. And I can tell you here on authority that when we lost the 2000 elections, I was part of the committee that defined.
I was only putting on again.
So the China visit and then conclude for me.
How is it that China has gotten it right and the happiness index in that country is very high?
Leadership. Full stop.
Mr. Prof.
Well, first of all, I'd like to agree fully with Mr. Philip London that in these matters, what is important is the health, the welfare, general welfare of the victim, which happens to be the 14-year-old girl. And in considering her welfare, general welfare, it may not be the most prudent thing to return her to the same classroom and so on. So I wish that that's how we carry on this discussion, the general welfare of the victim, you understand? So that settles it. With respect to Vijay Prasant, he's a very young man. He's a professor of history, originally from India. And in his very young age, he's written 40 books. Prolific writer, prolific speech maker, and so on. And he's going to become the intellectual superstar of our day, global intellectual superstar of our day. His views are important. Indeed, if you look at all of our countries, everywhere the socialist experiment was truncated, through the intervention of Western intelligence agencies, there's been a rollback, there's been mass suffering, mass poverty, and so on. We need to rethink. That's all.
Well, thank you very much. 2 more messages and we're out of here. Good morning, KOD. My regards to your panel, especially my former MP lawyer, Inus Afuseni. In fact, the speech of Prof. Naana Jane has opened the gateway for NDC's victory camp 2024. Murtala Mohammed, former assembly member, Agric Muhiyabin Tamale. Well, thank you very much. Good morning, KOD. My regards to your panelists, especially. Oh, no, I think I've read this one already. Okay, so you sent it twice. This one is from Alaji in Kumase. Even Nanado did not spare God with the deceit of building him a cathedral during his tenure as the president. Wow, no wonder we are where we are. Good morning, Pan-African Television. I am Jamil Yaya from Kwewu West in Koko. I've heard a denial from the Electoral Commission months ago that there was no stolen machines from their office. But how come now the machines have been found? Questions for the ghost. All right, so that does it, Mr. Pratt. Thank you very much. Mr. Philip London, thank you. Honorable Inus Afuseni, bless you. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a nice day. Salute.